So,
the very top.
the very top. There we go. I think that's got it. Yep.
Yeah.
My name's Greg Brown, and I've been a member of the Forsyth Club for 5 years, and I've been keeping bees for 6 years. And actually, that's a little backwards. I've been a member of the club for 6 years, and I've been keeping bees 5 years. And if you count that backwards, COVID, when we first started doing the classes, it was on Zoom. Nobody could talk to each other. Nobody could touch you know. So I actually went to the classes for a while and then got bees. The best management practices that we're going to talk about with this basically goes back over a lot of the information you've already had today. As everybody else has said, it's all based on this book. And I was just telling Whit a while ago outside, the best thing you can do with this book is at the end of this summer, read it again. If there will be so many things that you read that you do not understand. I went for certification this past summer, and just about everybody was in the group taking the certification class at some point or another in the book said, oh, that makes sense now. And whether it's about a disease, about breeding habits, whatever. So, make sure you read the book, but also, with your notes that you take in, I've got notes all in the back of mine, make a point of picking it up later and reading it again. It'll make a lot of sense to you. What I'm going to go over now is things that probably have been talked about a little bit in the other groups, but also kind of put it all in one line for hopefully things for you to look for, things for you to be aware, and as you start your actual walk with honeybees in the next month or so. I guess a lot of y'all are probably getting bees this coming month or sometime in April. Oh, wrong button. As other people have probably already told you, the bees that we use in our area, most of the United States, are European honeybee colonies. And there's been a lot of work done in the last couple of years as far as different crossbreedings, et cetera, trying to make them where they're more hygienic, other things to make them more able to survive some of the diseases and issues that we have in the modern world. I was going to go over a couple of things that hopefully you haven't already heard, but would make sense to you. The condition of the hive is job number one. I mean, there's nothing more important than that. And the things that you have to watch for are pretty simple in a lot of ways and then get complicated as you actually figure it out. And one of the first things you need to keep up with is how strong is your hives. If you're dealing with too fast a growth, you could be dealing with swarming, you could deal with starvation, you could still deal with several issues that will be from them being too full. The other side of the coin, if they're not picking up growth fast enough, are they lacking resources, or different things like that. All those issues will allow the hive to either survive or not survive, because when you're at a point where you're having number of bees in your hive lower, then you start having to worry about moths. You have to start worrying about small hive beetles. You have to start worrying about, if it's in the early spring, whether they're able to handle a dip in the weather like this coming week. We're going to be back down in the 30s, and if you have a hive from last year that's made it through the winter, but they have run out of food stores because of the incoming warm weather we've had for the last week and a half. They've started laying brood, et cetera, but then it goes back down in the 20s. They're stuck in the hive and they don't have food to eat, sources to eat. That can cause an issue. So one of the first things you want to stay in touch with is how many frames are full, how full are the frames, how full are the laying pattern, et cetera, so that you know the health of your hives. And that is one of the easiest things. What is the hive, how are the bees doing? Is there 8 frames, et cetera, et cetera. And again, like I said, if it's too full, then you got to worry about swarming, et cetera, those kind of things. Most of us will have our hives in a neighborhood. A good portion of us. Some of us are lucky to have it on farmland or a bigger lot that we're not. But a lot of us will have our hives in a neighborhood. If you're going to have your hives in a neighborhood, you're going to be interacting with your neighbors, whether you want to think about it initially or not. So when you start working on setting up your hives, you need to be cognizant of, does anybody around you have bee allergies? Your next door neighbor has a fire pit that's right in the center of his yard that your bees are going to be flying over every afternoon. There's all the different things that could go on in your being in a neighborhood. You need to take those into consideration when you're deciding placement. Is there a fence that you need to put them against so that they're not being able to go against another neighbor, et cetera, et cetera. One of the biggest things we wind up hearing about a lot in bee club meetings is neighbors' swimming pools. Do you have a neighbor that has a fountain, a swimming pool, a hot tub, et cetera, and the bees going to it? So you need to be aware of those things as you're planning, and also go ahead and be doing your research on how you prevent those things from happening. The issue that a lot of people have is with swarming in their neighborhood. The last thing you want is a phone call from Joe down the street, and he's got 30,000 bees in his oak tree in his front yard, and you go out and look and realize, well, those were mine. So as part of being a good steward with your bees is also being a good steward with your neighbors in terms of trying to prevent those things. Being aware, as I first said, my first comment, being aware of bee counts. How full is the hive? Are they running out of room to put comb? Are they, et cetera. I personally have my bees on Setting Down Creek. They are literally from me to Bill from a creek. With that being said, I have a water source right between my hives that when I went and checked them yesterday afternoon, they were all over my water source, even though they were right beside the creek. I've got mineral salts in my water. So they're going for it before they go to the creek. Well, stop and think about it. If you're in a neighborhood and the guy's got the swimming pool, what's he got in his swimming pool? Pool salts. So there's another slide a little further in here that will bring this up again. It's easier to train them to go to your water source than it is to train them to go to their water source, and then you try to untrain them to go to your water source. Most of the time, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to untrain them. They're going to go where their scouts go to originally. So, by having that source out early in the spring before they really get to the point where they're needing water, you can prevent the neighbor 2 doors down from ringing your doorbell. Treating your neighbors with respect, I have learned very quickly the bottle of honey goes a long way with a neighbor. All of my neighbors regularly get bottles of honey, even though I don't even have the bees in my backyard anymore, because it builds a relationship, And so, think about your neighbors, have conversations with them about what they're doing for their plants in their yards, whether they're doing pesticides. It's better to have a conversation with them before you get bees about, hey, I'm thinking about getting honeybees. Would you please start doing your treatment of your flowers at late evening instead of during the middle of the day or in the morning. Start working on building relationships with them, because most people are aware that there's a honeybee issue, and they'll be glad to help, work with you and understand what's going on and be excited about you having bees, as long as they don't have a fear or health issue or something with bees. But just a normal a regular person will be, yeah, you're right, I won't spray, I'll use so-and-so instead, and make choices that will help you be successful also. Keeping bees near people can be done, and it can work out okay for everyone. I had them in my backyard for the first 4 years, never had any issues, had the conversations, stopped and thought where I was putting them before I installed them. One of my neighbors had the fire pit with the chairs around it. Another one of my neighbors has grandkids and they get out and play toss and stuff. So I made decisions. Well, if I put them here, there's a fence here, I'll plant some shrubs here, all these different things to make it where I was being aware of them, and they also knew I was making decisions that would help control my pets, my crop, with their families being nearby. Like I said, be considerate of your neighbors. A jar of honey will go a long way. Stand there and educate them. They walk out in the yard and you realize they're standing there, walk over there and talk to them. Yeah, I'm doing this, I'm having to treat them for mites. And, blah, blah, blah. Most times they're kind of interested. You don't bend their ear for 30 minutes, but, have a small conversation with them, make them realize that it's a job that you have a lot of love for, and, they'll appreciate that. One of the things that I think I got from Butch more than anybody is if you don't have happy bees, gentle bees, you can get gentle bees. If you're having a hard time with a hive that, even though you paid a lot of money for it and it's supposed to have good genetics, et cetera, if they are after you before you even get to the hive to look at them or whatever, start thinking about changing the queen. Be proactive, especially in a neighborhood setting, with keeping bees that are easy to work with, that also make it easy for the people living around you to have them. Knowing bee biology and managing to keep both bees and neighbors happy go into that. There's certain things that you'll realize. There's some bees that are calmer. There are some bees that produce honey faster. There are some bees that will build up brood earlier in the season. Those are all things that, as you go through your travels with having the bees and walking your walk, I guess would be a better way of putting it, that you will gain knowledge of. Nobody's the same. Well, you might talk to 4 different beekeepers in here and they'll all tell you 4 different, well, I like carnelians. No, I like Russians. No, I don't mind, I'm out on a farm. I don't mind them being a little spicy. I get more honey from them. Whatever. You have to figure out what's best for you in terms of, your location, the amount of how upset they get, how calm you are around bees, et cetera, will all play into your relationship with your hives. One of the things that I learned really early on was, again, this goes back to the biology of it. If you have a hive in May that's real easy to work with, you're in it, you're able to do the frames, whatever. once you put it back together and close it up, within a few minutes, it went back to being docile. You can walk away from it and 10 feet, take your hood back off and stand there and everything's copacetic. Doesn't necessarily mean that hive will be the same way in July. You know, those are things, again, I never do my bees without a suit on. There's something about me, I don't know what it is. They love to hate me. I mean, you know, I can get off my gator at the hives, and if I walk through them, I park 25 feet away from them. By the time I'm 10 feet away from them, I have bees flying around me. So I just, as soon as I get off the gator. Bill Dunn, I don't think I've ever seen him with a suit on. And most of them in short sleeves. It's just, everybody's different. You will learn. Bush will tell you to take your gloves off and get your hands in there. And I've tried that and I wound up with swollen fingers. So everybody has their own, what they're capable of doing, and some of it goes back to saying bee biology. Well, it's actually your own biology. You know, you know, I don't know, is it I eat too much asparagus? Who knows what the answer is, but know about the bees. If you start having an issue with them being too hostile, not growing fast enough, you're not getting a good honeycomb pattern, et cetera, go back into your book and read. And if you can't find the answer there, especially as new beekeepers, have a phone number for a mentor that you can call and say, hey, I've noticed this, I've noticed that, what should I do about it? Everybody should worry about having swarms. It's a natural process for honeybees in the spring. It doesn't mean you're going to have them, but you have to be proactive thinking about them. You can't know that, well, a better way to put it is not know. You can't not know what's going on with your hives, especially the coming months of March and April. Look around you. You're having flowers bloom, you're having trees bloom. Your bees are going in and out like crazy with pollen on them. You know, you've got all the things going on for a nectar flow. And, well, I'm busy this week, I really can't go into my hive. That's a candidate for losing a big bunch of your bees to swarming. You have to take the time every once in a while, have it as priority number one. I have got to check my hives, check the count, how many bees are in it, is it time to put another honey super on, is it time to put another brood box, whatever the issues are where that particular hive is. The other thing that I realized really quick with doing this is even if you have just 2 hives, you can't treat them both the same. Just because you walked out to hive 1 and opened it up and said, well, it needs so-and-so, you can't turn around and do it to both. You have to look at hive 1, make a decision about what's going on with hive 1, use hive 2, look at it, view it, see what's going on, what the growth is, what the pattern is with the laying, et cetera, and then make decisions about each hive based on that. Just because the bees have gotten really full, a lot of brood, queens laying crazy in this hive, and you check this hive and it's only halfway full of brood and they've only built out 6 frames, this hive swarms on you. Well, I looked at so-and-so and it looked fine. Well, no, you can't do that. You have to look at each one, be aware. I know a lot of you are, and I said this myself, I'm only going to have 2 hives. Well, I have 12. Have a relationship with other people. Find out, I went through class with Billy, and Billy lost one of his hives. Mine are doing really good. Call Billy and do a split for him. It will save you in the end. You might not want to do a split, but the split keeps you from having a swarm, and you get to keep most of your bees making honey instead of losing 60% of them, because they swarmed off on you and you're having to start all over with a new queen, you're ahead of the game. So stay aware of what's going on inside each hive. I've got the water source up, and I talked about earlier. Supply water, supply some minerals in the water, keep up with it on a regular basis. Be aware of where you have it located so that the hives will, if you have the water here and the guy's pool's there, that's probably not a good idea. If you have the water here and you've got them going here and the pool's there, there's a good shot they won't turn and go to that when this runs out. You know what I'm saying? Try to train them where they're going. They're really smart. And the scout bees do a really good job, and if they run out, hopefully they'll keep going that way. Not guaranteed, but at least you've got them trained going that way to start with. I use, I think everybody in here has a different idea about water. We've got a couple of members that have kiddie pools in the backyard, and they've taken the noodles and cut them into chunks and thrown the noodles in there so that they have landing spots. I've got the poultry feeders, except I have water in them, a poultry waterer. And I put gravel in the base of it so that they have landing spots, and I put the water in it. Some of the, I will say, this is one time I would tell you the Boardman feeder is okay. I don't like Boardman feeders, but if it's the middle of the summer and you own Boardman feeders and it's really hot, stick a Boardman feeder on each one of your hives with pure water in it, with little minerals in it. Don't put sugar water in it, because it might lead to rotting, but just having the water in it would be a good thing. Safety barriers, again, this is probably something that's already been talked about. You're in a neighborhood and maybe you're at the end of a cul-de-sac or whatever. It might be worth it for you to put, a wall around it, as they have on this example. If you got children around, you might want to put something across so that the kids can't go out there to it. I think they probably did this because they're dealing with some sort of animal. Not really sure. I put straps over all of my hives. I keep straps over mine year round because usually I'm either dealing with deer or raccoons. So I just, instead of going out and seeing them destroyed, I just right off the bat automatically put straps on them. If you're trying to train them not to go into somebody's house, you might plant some shrubbery. Plant a couple of trees. The direction you've got them turned against the fence line. All those things will help create natural barriers so that where I lived when I had the bees in my backyard, it was kind of fun. I could stand at the end of the driveway and I have my house and then I have a row of cryptomeria. And it was like standing at the end of the runway for the airport. They'd come out of the hives, which were 100 feet behind my house, and by the time they came over the top of me, they were 25 feet in the air, 15 to 25 feet in the air, because that's what they'll do. They'll come up and go out to wherever they've been scouted to have food. So it doesn't take a lot of a barrier to get them up in the air so that they're up above your neighbors, et cetera, as long as they're not diving down to go to your neighbors for whatever food supply or water supply. I think Bill has hot wire around his hives over on some of his because he has to deal with cows. I have my hives now outside of the hot wire fence for cows. Guy has cows, I've got mine sitting on the outside the property line for them. So, just again, it's all about thinking about what you have going on. Yes, sir?
So real quick question, have you ever heard of anyone having any issues with dogs?
Usually they get stung a couple of times and they call it a day. I mean, I have, where I had them in my backyard, I had 3 dogs. I had 2 Welsh Terriers and a Shih Tzu. And they would go out there and sit and watch me work. But they would sit from, me to you, they would sit down and watch me work on the bees. They would never actually go to the hive. I don't know if it's the noise coming out of them or the fact they had one out there when I wasn't paying attention and got nailed. But I mean, it only takes, dogs are pretty smart.
Yeah.
You know, it's, yeah, sometimes, you know. When I was a little kid, I had a Dachshund that would catch yellow jackets. And jump in there and catch them out of there.
Greg, what do you do about deers? In my backyard, we might have a couple of trails of deers. One of the trails where I want to put these bees is right where one of the trails is.
Deer, have you ever really had a deer tear up a box, either one of y'all?
Did they go for the honey or?
No.
What about a bear if you're in the North Georgia mountains?
With the bears, I ratchet strapped mine, and I had them up beside Gibbs Gardens, and they were known to be bears there. I never had any issues. I put them up above Gibbs Gardens and to do, you know, sourwood honey. I put hot wire around them. And, you know, did hot wire mesh around them and never had any problems. I actually had videos where I had them at was at a guy's house, and he had a camera trained on, and I could look at any time I wanted to. And he'd alert me anyway, every once in a while, say, look at the video, and you'd see the bears would walk right by and not slow down. I have seen videos on YouTube in different places where the mama bear has walked up with the baby bear, let the baby bear go over and get shocked, and then they both walk away. Like the mother would know, well, go ahead and let him get his lesson.
Greg, are those your hives I've seen at Gibbs Gardens?
No, they won't tell you who owned those hives, and I don't want to go there because I'm not real proud, happy of those people.
They're not functional anymore.
Huh?
Those hives are dead.
They kill them on a regular basis. They just won't be able to say they have hives.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I lost, no, we won't go there. Anyways, the other thing that was, you know, inspect under favorable conditions. Shirt sleeve weather. If it's warm enough, you be in short sleeves, it's warm enough to get inside your hives. That's kind of a rule of thumb. You don't want to go into the hives when it's a real windy day. You don't want to go in the hives if it's very overcast. And all this is basically beekeeper common sense. It's things you'll learn in a little while. You know, you go in and it's an overcast day, all the bees are going to be in the hive. You go in and it's getting ready to rain, the hives are going to be full of all the bees. You go in when it's real windy, it just sort of irritates them, I guess would be a good way to put it. They're just not happy. You want to be a nice, warm, sunny, calm day is the best day. And you know, if there's 40,000 bees in that hive, probably a third of them at least are going to be out when you go in that hive. It just makes it easier for you to work it. It makes it easy. You're not seeing as many bees on the frames when you're trying to look at frames. You know, all the different things. I have a list of things that I think it's another frame we're going to get. This is where we are right now, obviously. Everybody that has bees right now will tell you the last 2 weeks the bees have been going crazy, flying, bringing in pollen, you know, looking for fresh nectar that's starting on some of the plants that are blooming, et cetera, et cetera. What's going to happen tomorrow night? It's going down to 23 degrees. These bees are going to be stuck back in their hives. I went through last week and put sugar on all my hives, made sure that what I put on at the beginning of the winter, I hadn't cracked the hives all winter because you let them seal themselves up tight so that they're not getting cold air in, et cetera, et cetera. Last week, I cracked them all open to see how much of the food stores I put in November was still there. About half the hives still had a lot. About half of them were, so I went through and put food on the ones that were getting close, because I knew this coming week, they're going to be stuck back in their hives. You have a hive this time of the year that made it through the winter with, what's a normal hive make it through the winter with? 15,000 bees? The winter bees, 15, 20. Well, in the last 3 weeks with us having this, all of a sudden they're having brood come out that are nurse bees. They're not out searching, they're not out scouting. So they're in that hive, and all of a sudden now it's turned back to 30 for a couple of days, and nobody can go out for food. So you have to be aware. You know, this is the weather. I made a comment. Beekeeping is very local. Forsyth County, you wouldn't believe how many different variances there are of weather in just Forsyth County. Where I am, I'm at about, I think I looked, I'm at about 1,300 feet where I have my bees at now. Where are you at? What's your elevation where you're at, Bill?
I don't know, 12, 1,300.
Yeah. You get over on one of the ridges, you can be 1,600. You get closer to the southeast corner, you can be around 1,000. 5 to 6 degrees per 100 feet sometimes. I can leave my house and it'd be 42 degrees, and by the time I get to Yellow Creek Road, which is the western edge of Forsyth County, it might be 36. So you have to be aware not only what they're calling for in Atlanta. Atlanta does you no good. You have to know what the weather's going to be in your area. What is the next few days? Is there something I need to do in the next few days, like get in and check food supplies? And also this time of the year, you're looking to see if your bees, the queens, have started back laying. You're not really worried about the pattern, et cetera, as much as are they back to laying. You're not going to be able to do anything about it for a couple of weeks, but at least you know in your mind what's going on inside your hive. You might decide at this time to put a little protein, pollen patty in there. We have, kind of as a rule of thumb in the club, for a lot of us, we don't put whole protein patties in. We put, most of the ones you buy come in a 6 by 12 sheet. I cut it in squares, and I put 1 square in each hive, or the ones I think need it or whatever, and then I'll go back in a few days and put another one in. This time of year with the temperatures starting to warm up, not only are the bees producing, small hive beetles are producing. They love to lay eggs in protein patties. So, you know, you cause a problem thinking you're solving the problem. So, you know, there's all kinds of tricks and things out there about small hive beetles. You can Google them and there'll be 100 pages of how I get rid of small hive beetles. But I got 10 minutes?
Yep.
Anyway, so be aware of everything that's going on with it. And again, we're talking about the same thing, the food reserves. This time of year, I don't like to put sugar water on like this picture shows. You get a big difference in temperature. It will pump the water out of the buckets into the hive, and you'll wind up having a moisture problem inside your hive. A lot of the guys here use in-hive feeders, the frames. That's great. Maybe leave the sugar on the tops in a feeder of some sort early. Different feeders where they have to go up into the cone of it to get to the sugar water at this time of year. All those things are options. I don't like doing that this early in the year. You know, you can think it's full of water, you got there 2 days later, it's pumped all the water out of from the heating and contracting, and the bees hadn't ate it, and you open up frames, and there it is all over your frames. We've talked about pollen patties. You know, everybody has an opinion about that. Do your research and make your own opinion, but try to follow through with it. The next couple of weeks into March, when it's warm, for continuous days, it'll be time to start looking in your hives and making sure your queens are laying good pattern. It's one thing to know she's laying. It's another thing to know, is she laying a constant pattern in a broad circle? Is she laying and then mixing in drones with it? Is she laying scattered? All those things are important to know whether you need to re-queen that hive. The middle of March through April is the period of time when you can start buying queens online. You might start working on trying to get a super seeder cell going, et cetera, based on you're not seeing a good pattern with how she's laying the different eggs. Again, this is the same thing, talking about the queen and talking to a mentor to help you walk through what you might ought to do as quickly as you can do it. Always have your new queen before you kill your old queen. That's another one of those beekeeper common sense. Don't say, well, I need to go ahead and get rid of her, and then realize you can't get one. Worst comes to worst, if you have one, and the mentor will help you, might take a super seeder cell and raise yourself one if you can't get one off the market. Again, this is talking about requeening. The biggest thing about requeening is having patience. It takes X amount of days for the queen to emerge. It takes X amount of days for the queen to be mated. It takes X amount of queens to get back acclimated to her habitat inside the hive. So just because you're not seeing her lay 2 days after you've installed a queen, don't get upset about it. Take your time, be patient about it, keep up with the days, and there's lots of calendars out there that will help you with the days that you should be watching for different things to happen. I personally like black foundation. I don't have that great a vision. I have to call Bill sometimes to come and tell me whether my queens are laying. My queens are laying eggs. Black foundation helps a lot when you're trying to spot first laid eggs. The other thing that's really, to me, when you're figuring out where your hives are going to be, if you have the chance, put it where you're going to have sunlight over your shoulder. I always try to put my hives, where late afternoon, I'm starting to get shade, so when it's really hot in the middle of the day, I can go over and work them late afternoon. But I also have it where if I need to, early in the morning, I have sunlight over my shoulder, I can hold it up and look and be able to find eggs. And especially as a newbie, it's really hard to spot something the size of a piece of lint. And the black really helps. Again, that's one of those things, that's what works for me. Do your own thing, find your own path, and be comfortable with it.
Excuse me, would something like a headlamp irritate them? If you're...
They'll go to the light.
Oh, great.
And you gotta have it inside your veil. I don't know how you would, just, try to orient them where you have good sunlight. And, after a while you get where you're pretty good at it and know how to tilt them and all those things. We talked about this earlier with the swarming. Try not to let them swarm, stay on top of them, do the splits, do the addition of boxes, et cetera, so that you don't have to deal with losing, especially if you're in it for the honey. You're not going to get much honey if you're losing, half of your bees in the spring because they've went somewhere else. Prime swarm, 50%, there you go. Like I said, expect a swarm and prevent a swarm instead of being surprised by a swarm. Hive congestion, again, all the things we just talked about with the splits, giving the bees extra bee space for them to lay, rotate your frames. This is all things you'll get into as you become more used to having bees. A lot of us probably right now have either done it or getting ready to do it. You have 2 boxes of brood. this time of year, you swap the top one to the bottom so that the bees will come back up through the frames that are empty. Some people don't do that. They take in every other one to mix them up so that they'll spread evenly. There's all kinds of options for how to do it, which comes under that equalizing colonies. Transferring frames from one hive, again having the two hives, one's really strong, this one's struggling. You can pull the frame, put it over in the other one to help jumpstart it to get it back on kill. This is what we were just talking about with the hive bodies, but also when you start having your honey super zone, you've got to be able to do the same sort of rotation. Dealing with queen cells and all that is all, the book will have pictures of it where you have where queen supersedor cells typically are, where swarm cells typically are, emergency cells. All those things are in the book, and they're all things that you need to have in your mind which ones they are. Bottom of the frame is usually swarm cells. Top, middle of the frame is usually supersedor cells. Be aware of what you're looking at as you're inspecting frames. The biggest thing about supering, and we were talking about this again outside before the class, you have to have drawn comb. A lot of the things that you're reading in the book and stuff is kind of presuming that you have drawn comb. If you don't have drawn comb as a new beekeeper, you can only put one box on at a time and get that comb drawn in it before you can start worrying about the next box. So I know you're all excited about, I'm going to get honey, et cetera, but you can actually, if you put 2 boxes on and all they have in them is foundation, you can actually stall them from producing honey for your use. Most people say the first year you're not going to get any out of it anyways. What you are going to get out of it, if you're lucky, is drawn comb, so that the next year, if you have 2 hives, you can put comb on that's freshly drawn on both of them. They'll start working on it, put another box on without drawn comb, move some of the frames around between the 2 boxes so that they'll work into both boxes, get drawn comb in all of them. I'm 6 years into it, and this will be the first year that I've had where I can put 2 boxes of drawn comb on all of my hives, because it's a process. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say, just to clarify, it's not grown comb, it's drawn comb. So like,
Sorry for the draw.
Instead of the plastic foundation, it's where the wax has already been made into the little cells. So that's what, if you don't have that, that's what slows your bees down, because then they have to expend all this energy building out the comb before they can do anything with it. So that's what it's.
Yeah, drawn. And same thing I was just saying about moving frames. They'll fill the center frames first, so move them to the outside, keep rotating them. And this is the chart talking about the rotating them. Same thing as you rotate them. 5 minutes? We've talked about this through the whole this lesson. Checking the weak hives. Why is it weak? Is the queen not laying a good pattern? Are you noticing any issues with the bees that are in there with their wings, et cetera, that might say there's a disease or a disorder going on? Were they poisoned? You're in a neighborhood and you walk out there one day and you got 10,000 bees laying in front of your hive, and you pick one up and you look at it through your reading glasses and their little tongues out, probably a good shot they were poisoned. You have to, again, put some time into it, understand the diseases and disorders, and be able to have a reasonably educated guess of what's going on with your hive. And the next section is basically just talking about all the different food sources. If you want to have honey to harvest, you got to have plants. Be aware of what's around you. Do you have any meadows around your clover? Do you have blackberry bushes across the street in a natural area? Do you all those things will go into making different honey. Poplar trees, tulip poplar, makes a very good honey. Everybody's golden child is sourwood honey. We're unfortunately not at a great elevation for getting that because it happens about the same time in this elevation as kudzu blooms, which isn't a bad honey, but you can't turn around and try to claim you have sourwood, and it's a mixture of both. Goldenrod is late in the season. It's more for the bees than it is for you. It's kind of a, you'll know when they're bringing goldenrod in because you'll walk out and open your beehive and go, oh God. It has a really distinct, almost sour smell, or I don't know how you would describe it, but anyway. And we're to questions. Was that fast enough to do the last 5 minutes?
Close enough. We'll take it how you pay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for the minerals that you're putting in the water, is that just salt or is there
Pool salts.
Pool salt?
Pool salts work really well. I use a teaspoon per gallon. And I've tried the salt like you use for ice cream salt and didn't have as good a luck as I did with the pool salt. Now, I guess pool salt has more of a variety of minerals in it or whatever. But it's kind of amazing. Like I said, where I have it, I'm literally from here to Bill from the creek, and they're diving that mineral water. I think it was Butch, we were talking outside, and he said, walk across a pasture in the middle of the summer after a rain, and you will see bees in the water footprint of a cow patty where cows walk through it and water's trapped in. They'll be getting water out of that because of the minerals in the cow feed. So it's real important. Don't take it for granted just because there's a creek or a lake or whatever that they're getting the minerals and everything they need. Anybody else? I guess we're through.